It's a summer evening in Fukuoka. A family of five is on a bridge. The parents are in the front seats. In the back are three children, a 4-year-old boy, a 3-year-old boy, and a baby girl, just 1 year old. They're crossing the Uminonakamichi Ohashi Bridge, which stretches over the entrance to Hakata Bay. It's the kind of ordinary moment, a family in a car at night, that you don't think about at all. The kind of moment that happens 1,000 times a day and ends the same way it started. Then a car comes out of the dark behind them. It's traveling at twice the speed limit. It slams into the back of their SUV so hard that the vehicle punches through the guardrail and disappears over the edge of the bridge. The children's mother, Kaori Ogami, would spend the next several minutes in the water in the dark, screaming her children's names. This is the story of what happened on August 25, 2006. And it's also the story of how one catastrophically selfish choice by one man forced Japan to completely rethink its relationship with drunk driving. The Uminonakamichi Ohashi Bridge connects Fukuoka City's Higashi Ward to the Uminonakamichi Peninsula across Hakata Bay. It's a functional bridge, not dramatic, not famous. The posted speed limit is 50 kilometers per hour. On the evening of August 25, 2006, Akio and Kaori Ogami were in their Toyota Land Cruiser Prado with their three children, Hiroaki, 4 years old, Tomoaki, 3 years old, and Saya, 1 year old, 5 people, a family car on a bridge at night. Futoshi Imabayashi was 22 years old. He worked as a civil servant at Fukuoka City Hall. That evening, he had been drinking. He got behind the wheel of his Toyota Crown Majesta and drove onto the Uminonakamichi Bridge at approximately 100 kilometers per hour, twice the speed limit. He rear-ended the Ogami family's Prado from behind. The force of the collision was enough to push the SUV through the bridge guardrail. The car went over the edge and fell approximately 15 meters into Hakata Bay. Akio and Kaori Ogami managed to get out of the sinking vehicle. Kaori, with the clarity that fear sometimes produces in parents, dove back in. In the dark water, in the chaos of the sinking car, she found Tomoaki and Saya, her 3-year-old and her baby, and she got them out. She brought them to the surface. She could not find Hiroaki. Her 4-year-old was somewhere in the sinking car, in black water at night. She searched. She had to stop searching. Hiroaki drowned inside the vehicle. Tomoaki and Saya were pulled from the water. Despite efforts to revive them, both died. All 3 children were gone. Akio and Kaori Ogami survived with minor injuries. Futoshi Imabayashi did not stop. He did not go to the edge of the bridge. He did not call for help. He walked away. The mechanics of the crash are not complicated. A man who had been drinking drove a car much too fast and hit another car from behind. But the behavior immediately after the crash is what makes this case distinctively ugly, and it's worth understanding exactly what Imabayashi did in the minutes after he drove a family's car off a bridge. He approached an acquaintance and asked that person to claim to be the driver, to take his place, to let a 22-year-old city employee escape responsibility by absorbing the blame. The acquaintance refused. Imabayashi then, according to accounts from the investigation and his trial, drank approximately 1 liter of water. The purpose was to dilute the alcohol in his system before police could measure his blood alcohol level. He was not thinking about 3 children in the water. He was thinking about his blood alcohol content. After that, he surrendered himself to police. Let that sequence settle for a moment. He attempted to substitute an innocent person. When that failed, he attempted to tamper with the evidence inside his own body. When that also failed, he turned himself in. At trial, when the Fukuoka District Court began hearing the case in June 2007, Imabayashi told the court, "I reject the view that I had difficulty driving properly under the influence of alcohol." He pleaded guilty to hit and run and to failing to rescue the victims, but he contested the claim that the alcohol had actually impaired his driving. He was, in other words, still managing the narrative. The Fukuoka District Court convicted him in January 2008. It classified the crash as professional negligence rather than dangerous driving, a distinction that mattered enormously because professional negligence carried a maximum sentence of 5 years. The court sentenced him to 7 years and 6 months. The appeals court saw it differently. The Fukuoka High Court in May 2009 reversed that classification. The court ruled that Imabayashi had consumed a substantial amount of alcohol, that his intoxication was the direct cause of the crash, and that framing it as mere inattentive driving was wrong. The charge was upgraded to dangerous driving, resulting in death and injury. The sentence was increased to 20 years. This is a case where the why feels both obvious and deeply uncomfortable. A 22-year-old chose to drive drunk. That's the answer. It's a choice that gets made thousands of times every day, and most of the time, nothing terrible happens. But this time, 3 children died. That said, choices don't happen in a vacuum. And there's a cultural dimension to what happened in Fukuoka that's worth naming. Japan in 2006 had a serious problem with its relationship to drunk driving. Not that people drove drunk, that happens everywhere, but with how the legal system, and to some extent the broader culture, had come to treat it. The penalties for causing a death while drunk were relatively mild. A killing classified as professional negligence could mean 5 years maximum. 5 years for killing a person. The legal framework was essentially communicating that drunk driving deaths were tragic accidents rather than foreseeable consequences of a criminal act. There's also the culture of drinking itself. Japan's nomikai, workplace drinking parties, are a significant institution. Drinking with colleagues is, in many settings, an expected part of professional life. Whether Imabayashi was drinking with co-workers that evening or simply on his own is not fully clear from the public record, but the broader point stands: the social infrastructure around alcohol in Japan had not yet caught up to a clear expectation that you simply do not drive afterward. Not ever. Not once. That changed. And this case is a large part of why. Most cases we look at involve a moment of violence, sudden, eruptive, often hard to explain. This one is different. There's no mystery about what happened on the bridge. What's worth examining instead is what happened in Imabayashi's mind in the minutes afterward. A car has just gone over the edge of a bridge. Children are in the water, a mother is screaming, and the person who caused this is standing on a bridge thinking about his career. That's not shock. That's not panic. That's a calculation. The cognitive sequence he ran through, find someone to blame, drink water, surrender, is a structured problem-solving response applied to the wrong problem. He wasn't asking, how do I help those children? He was asking, how do I get out of this? This is something that comes up in forensic psychology around culpable behavior. When someone causes a serious harm, the brain sometimes enters a self-protective mode that narrows focus to consequences for the self, essentially freezing out the humanity of the people affected. It doesn't justify anything, but it explains how a person can stand 20 meters above drowning children and think primarily about their blood alcohol level. The trial behavior follows the same pattern. Months later in a courtroom, Imabayashi was still managing the framing of his own responsibility. I reject the view that I had difficulty driving properly. He didn't say, I'm sorry, he argued a technicality. And then something happened that broke through whatever frame he had built around himself. The Fukuoka High Court doubled his sentence. He went from 7.5 years to 20. Whatever story he had told himself about the severity of what he'd done, the legal system eventually refused to confirm it. For Kaori Ogami, there was no appeals process, no second verdict. In July 2025, nearly 19 years after the crash, she gave her first public lecture at a high school in Fukuoka to students who were not yet born when her children died. She recounted that night. She described going back into the water for her children. She talked about what she could not change. The sentence was confirmed. The children were not returned. The numbers after this case are worth sitting with. In 2005, before the crash, Japan recorded approximately 13,875 drunk driving accidents. By 2007, after the Fukuoka case became national news and the laws changed, that number had dropped to approximately 7,558. Nearly cut in half, in 2 years, and that's before we even account for the 2007 road traffic law amendments, which came into effect in September of that year. Those amendments did something that Japanese law had never done before. They made it a crime to provide alcohol to someone you know is about to drive. made it a crime to provide that person with a vehicle, made it a crime to knowingly get in the car with them. For the first time, drunk driving was framed not as the isolated choice of one reckless individual, but as a chain of decisions involving everyone around them. Fukuoka Prefecture and Fukuoka City adopted an unconditional dismissal policy. Any public official convicted of drunk driving loses their job. No exceptions. That policy was a direct consequence of this case. Researchers looking at the data have noted something striking. The statistical decline in drunk driving began before the new law took effect. The Fukuoka crash, the national media coverage of 3 children drowned because a city employee drove drunk and then tried to flee, appears to have shifted behavior on its own before any penalty changed. The story itself became a deterrent. That doesn't bring Hiroaki, Tomoaki, or Saya back. Kaori Ogami stood at a school in Fukuoka in 2025 and talked about searching for her children in black water. 19 years later, she was still in the water in some sense. She was still searching for a way to make their deaths mean something. The bridge was repaired, the guardrail was replaced. The city went on. Those children's names were Hiroaki, Tomoaki, and Saya. They were 4, 3, and 1. Their mother tried to save them. She saved 2 of them for a few minutes. Then they were gone. If you're going to drive tonight, this is the story to carry with you. Thanks for watching. If you want to understand the cases that changed Japan, the ones that moved the law, shifted the culture, cost people everything, subscribe and stay with us. This channel will keep going.